Jared Polin, Fro knows photo. Do I say .com? I don't, Adam, do I say .com when I do that?
FroKnowsPhoto.com.
Jared Polin, Fro knows photo.com. Yeah, I messed up my own intro. It shows you where my head is at today. Anyway, we have a Flickr photo of the week here from Adam Lerner. Mr. Adam Lerner here in the bottom right-hand corner. You want to wave to everybody?
Hello.
Hey! Just for Men called. They want to try and cast Adam for a little touch of gray. You know, he's a little bit of this with, I like his go-to-edness, but I like this guy's experience. Anyway, so we're going to talk about this photo that Adam took here. Adam, why don't you explain this photo and why there's so much snow and what happened?
Well, as you know, there was the Snowmageddon, the Blizznizzard, Blizzard.
I know that, but most people around the world probably don't even know.
All right, world. So New York City got dumped on. To put it into context, this was the sixth largest snowstorm in recorded weather history for New York. And for whatever reason, the way that the snow band worked is that the greatest concentration of snow dumped on New York. So we got over 2 feet of snow. There's been a whole controversy about how the sanitation department's been handling it. As you can see, this is the following day, and it was a little bit later in the day, and you can see that this is a main thoroughfare here in Brooklyn, and it's a 2-lane street, and there's barely even like a single lane available that was plowed maybe once. And it was very, very cold, and the wind was blowing significantly. So you can see that there's a lot of snow just being blown around, and I guess they consider that kind of wind a blizzard condition, even if it's not snowing.
Yeah. Because
it continue to create drifts. So it was kind of a mess. I mean, cars in some areas where the drifts were buried over the roofs. I mean, it was crazy. So, of course, naturally, I had to go out there with my camera.
Yeah, so break down the photo for me.
This is, what do you want me to break down here?
I don't know, like what you were thinking when you took this and what you pre-visualized and, you know, how you saw it and then captured it.
Yes. Well, I wanted to go out there with my wide angle and just try to capture the vast expanse of what we were looking at out here. I wasn't really going outside to do too many detail shots. I just really wanted to kind of create, like, you know, some big, you know, sweeping landscapes that showed the mood here. As you can see, I'm shooting directly into the sun at 14 millimeters, and
it handles it very well.
Well, I typically like to shoot very wide. I mean, I'm sorry, very open aperture-wise.
Yeah.
Because of the bright sun, I had to stop it down to f5 to get at, you know, the 1/8,000th of a second, which, you know, as we were talking about a little bit before, I could have shot this at f16 or f11. But
and it wouldn't have mattered. It would have shown, you know, with such a wide-angle lens of 14, you're going to get basically front to back, even at 2.8, it's still going to be in focus.
Absolutely. You know, and I, you know, I mean, at the time too, you know, if this was the kind of lens that, you know, you could have put neutral density filters on, that could have been really cool if you could have slowed down the exposure to really kind of capture all of the snow being blown around. But, you know, for what it's worth, the way that the sun was kind of passing through the snow spray,
Sure.
you know, in my mind, it looked really cool.
Well,
kind of like has that Wild West feel, you know?
Yeah, well,
like
what I like about it is the wide nature that you get to see the street, something that's normally busy. The colors are great for shooting right into the sun. The subject looks very good, and when I was just looking at your changes, we can see that you're +2 on the exposure. And as we pull back on it, we can see where it was, what the camera recorded.
Right. Which is kind of a cool shot in itself, a little bit moonscapey.
Right, but you were going for probably bringing out the subject, which so happens to be your wife. Now,
exactly.
with this being said, the D3S only goes to 200 ISO.
Right.
I've always been told, or it's been recommended, not to go into the lower numbers. And
to
some
go
artifacts
low.
and things happen down there.
Right.
Because it's technically not the recommended to go into the low numbers. That's why they're not numbered. That's why they don't have numbers. But the 1/8,000th of a second is fine. That's the top speed of what the camera is going to let you do. And f5, you were shooting manual, that's where you had to be. If you went to 2.8, you could actually still shoot there in manual, and you would see have you ever done that? Have you ever shot at 8,000th of a second at, say, 2.8 where you're not supposed to shoot?
In what context?
In context, like you opened up another stop and a half to 2.8 here and actually shot it at 8,000. It's interesting. I did that with the 24 1.4 because I wanted to shoot at 1.4, but I couldn't get anything to go any lower. I couldn't get the ISO. I mean, the ISO wouldn't go lower, but it created this weird, like, haloing effect, but the middle was awesomely exposed, where the outside then kind of wasn't awesomely exposed. It's just a weird thing you could try, and I don't know if that's bad for the camera. I don't know, but...
Well, I don't know that it's bad for the camera. I just think that, in hindsight, if I was really thinking about this, I probably could have done some exposure compensation and potentially maintained the aperture setting that I was looking for.
Yeah, but the compensation's not going to do much other than just change your shutter speeds.
Correct. And to be honest, in my opinion, this is very much what the scene looked like that day.
And I like this over the other, and that's, again, the power of what you have in your RAW file. You use some fill light, you used a little bit of blacks, you did a little bit of boomification with the contrast, and a little bit of clarity, and did you touch vibrance or anything? Did you try to see what it would do?
What I did in this case is I added a little bit of white. I changed the temperature in the white balance to warm it up, because otherwise, for whatever reason, the camera was just making it look a little bit cold blue.
This would be the cold blue, and then being that it's going into the sun, you warmed it up a little bit.
Right, and to me, as soon as I did that, the shot went boom.
Yeah, well, that's again the cool part about having the control over your shot.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, and the thing is that I didn't want to brighten it up too much to lose the color in the sky, and lose the detail in the actual snow, because shooting in snow is tough. I mean, it's just a pure white reflective surface. So
and this looks natural.
You want to see the texture. You want to see the detail. You want to kind of imagine yourself standing on that street being frigid.
Sure. No, I in wrapping it up, I really think it does look natural, and the corrections are right on for what you saw, and just to show people the difference is that's pretty much where it was shot, but the way you saw it was this.
Right.
So.
And to be honest, if I had exposed it to look like this, I probably would have blown out a lot of the detail.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I felt that what I captured was a good image to work with, but knowing that I was probably going to have to just pop it up a little bit in post.
Yeah, and that's I don't get my exposures right all the time, and most of us don't, and there's reasons sometimes that you're off. You give yourself some leeway to go certain ways with it because you know how you want to process it. It's all part of that pre-visualization and knowing what you want to do with your files before you even take them, or knowing what you're going to do with them when you're in that situation, and knowing there's a leeway. I rather get the image, capture the frame and make my corrections that I need to make to bring it back to where I want it, even if it's small. I mean, this is an extreme circumstance. I'm sure most of your images aren't brought back 2 stops.
No.
So, but in the most of the time we're a half a stop, a quarter a stop, a little bit of tweaks are being done. So, you don't
and
have...
that's really to taste.
Huh?
That's really to taste. It's like,
Right.
How do you like your coffee? 1 sugar, 2 sugars. It's like, I think that it's definitely a taste thing, but I really do, for the most part, when I'm shooting, I try to get the exposure as close as possible to what the final's going to be.
Right, you want to get it close, but with that being said, it's not always going to be a perfect exposure, and being that we are shooting RAW, you do go ahead and process your images. So,
and one thing I'd like to just say is that I think a lot of people, they get into editing, they get into their image processing software, and they might be afraid to touch some of the sliders. They might be afraid to think like, oh my God, why would I ever want to boost this, or why would I ever want to touch that? And I don't think you should be afraid of it. I think that by, you have the control with your raw file to be able to take, an ordinary image and make it really exceptionally, cool. So don't be afraid to go in there and try stuff.
Well, that's with that being said, again, it's, you hear that traditionalist crap. You know what?
Right.
We're in a time where you have tools to use. You utilize the tools that you have. In the older days, we had tools. We utilized those tools to make our images better. In the older days, they had tools to make what their images better. And it's all a progression. This is an art form that keeps constantly progressing, and there's going to be new tools that you're going to either use or not use, but you really need to learn them, because the biggest reason for not doing something is because you're afraid of it and you don't want to learn it. So,
right.
but I really like how your histogram held up in this, Adam. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going there. So I'm going to wrap it up. Adam, tell them your website.
It's adamlerner.net.
.net, because some guy owns the other one, and that's about it. Adam, thank you very much for supplying us with this image. Cool.
Cool.
Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.